Welcome to First Unitarian Society of Minneapolis, the birthplace of Congregational Humanism. We carry on that tradition of free thought today, dedicated to promoting a free search for truth, meaning, and justice. Our web address is firstunitarian.org. I'm David Breeden, Senior Minister. Welcome.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. All you hearty souls who have gathered here in our building on Mount Curve, and those of you who are comfortably ensconced at home. We don't judge, not much. We are delighted that you are with us wherever you are joining us from. We are part of a gathered community wherever we are. Welcome. We are doing something a little different. Those of you who've been here the last few Sundays know we've moved our announcements toward the end of the service. So if you're looking to hear something in particular, you'll hear it down toward the end. Our theme for the month of March is vulnerability. And this call to assembly is from the Reverend Gretchen Haley. There is nothing you need to bring with you to be welcome here. No right beliefs or proof of citizenship, no eternal optimism or clarity of conviction, no boundless courage or endless expertise. You do not need to know what brought you here or how you will solve that problem that you are turning over and over and over in your mind. Your bills do not need to be paid, and your checkbook can be a mess. Your children may have been up half the night. Your hearing aids may not be working. What? And your knees may be creaking. You do not need to be already perfect or even halfway to belong in this circle where grace meets us where we are, but does not leave us as it found us. Where love resides in each of us, yet is somehow more than all. Where life still pulses and rages and heals and transforms, creating us and this day anew once again. Come, let us gather in community.
Hi, good morning. Well, I'm very happy to introduce to all of you my very good friend Ian Snyder, who will be joining me today for our musical selections. And we have chosen a piece that we have been playing for a time, which is Debussy Violin Sonata. I think it somehow suits our theme of the month. So this sonata, it's the last piece that Debussy actually wrote, the last major piece. And, you know, we could talk a little bit about vulnerability from the actually biographical point of view, because at the time he wrote it, he was already quite ill. And yes, not too much later after he wrote this piece, he died. So there is that, but I think that it's more interesting to look at the music and how it interplays with this concept of vulnerability. And Debussy is probably the most important composer of the turning of the 19th century into the 20th. And he's basically called the father of all modern music. But to me, it's so fascinating how he did this, because he didn't do a change through, huge outbursts and a lot of energy like more or less 70 or 80 years before Beethoven did, which of course changed the whole musical language. But Debussy did exactly the same in changing the musical language, but through very different and delicate elements to the music. And if there's one characteristic that I feel is always present in Debussy, it's his transparency, and also somehow an ethereal kind of condition, which I think really suits, the theme of finding wholeness through vulnerability. The sonata is of course divided in 3 parts, and as we have 3 musical selections, we will play each movement in each of these musical selections, and well, I hope you enjoy it. Do you need A?
So lovely, thank you both. As Paul lights the chalice, I will read the words from the fourth UU principle, which is a free and responsible search for truth and meaning.
Oh, what a way to start this morning. Well, we have quite something to do to add our voices to this music, but let's do our best. We will sing together, There Is More Love Somewhere. It's number 95 in the Grace Songbook, if you want to sing from there, but the lyrics will also show up here. And if you are willing and able, please stand. For our congregational covenant. Love is the spirit of this place, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Please be seated. We are a congregational humanist community. That means we care about each other. We show up for each other. On Sundays, we take a few moments to reflect on the joys, the sorrows, and the milestones of the human experience. In doing this, we remind ourselves of the value of a moment of stillness, and we are reminded to stay in touch with our own humanity. As a gathered community, we do this so that no one among us is alone, either in celebrating life's joys or in facing life's tragedies and burdens. We are here for each other. There are no specific joys and sorrows that have been mentioned to the congregation this week, but I want to take a moment to lift up members of the trans community. The trans community, which is under attack and assault, both in Minneapolis and across the country. We stand with our trans congregation members and our trans siblings in the wider community. We know that authoritarianism wants to control bodily autonomy. And as humanists, as Unitarian Universalists, as a loving community, we say that bodily autonomy is a core principle of what it means to be human. And we decry, we condemn acts of violence against any person, and especially our trans siblings. Let's take a few moments of silence to reflect on how our lives are connected one to another, how we hold each other's joys and increase them, how we hold each other's burdens and lighten them, and how we think with love and support of those who work for peace and justice in our world.
Okay. Now for our time for all ages, we're going to have a little game here. And everyone is welcome to participate. You can call out. We're going to have some slides up here in a second. And the question will be, what do these things have in common? So feel free to just yell out. So we'll get up our first slide here. No, not me. There we go. What do these things have in common?
Things to buy in the grocery store. Things to eat, buy in the grocery store, food. Lunch.
Candy.
Candy. They're packaged.
Stuff that
Good.
gives you sugar rushes.
All right, Dominic, stuff that gives you sugar rushes. Okay.
All right. Let's try the next
Processed, okay.
one. What do these have in common?
Electronics.
Electronics.
Digital. Technology.
Digital, technology.
Internet.
A dead guy.
All right, good guesses.
Convenience, okay.
What are these?
Presidents. The Hall of Fame or Shame. Black suits.
Fancy weird people.
They're all men.
Yep, good guesses. Good guesses.
Fancy weird people.
Privileged, fancy, weird people. Okay.
All right, let's take try the next one. What do these have in common?
Sports and movies.
Sports and movies.
Celebrities, good.
Celebrities. Overpaid, I heard.
All right. So what do all of those things that we just saw on all of those slides have in common?
Capitalism.
Okay, capitalism.
Well known.
Recognizable, well-known.
Familiar.
Modern world.
Oh.
Modern world. Some of them didn't exist before. Do you have an idea what that date might have been?
Let's see the next slide. We'll
Okay.
have a clue here.
All right.
Okay.
Can you all see this?
But that was it. When did these not exist? Everything is since? Yep. 85.
Since 1985. All of those things since 1985.
Yes. And what else is not changed since 1985? And our next slide there is the 7 principles and 6 sources for the UUA. Can we go back to the last slide real quick? There we go. All right. Now, have some of these things been updated since they were there? We had a new Top Gun movie last year. Even that has been updated since. Okay.
Some presidencies have been updated.
A few versions of the iPhone.
Yeah, a few versions of the iPhone and iPad.
Yeah, the history has been updated.
Yeah, the history has been updated, right.
You press the update button.
Right, we've had to update lots of things constantly. Okay.
Yeah. So, well, part of the talk today will be about the updates potentially to the UU principles, and might be about time to look at that. So.
That's right. So we thought that would be a fun way. Thank you, Buckley. We thought that would be a fun way to think about what all has happened since the last time that we changed the fundamental documents of the Unitarian Universalist Association. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that up here during the talk, and we're going to sing you young ones off to your religious education classes. Let's do it.
Be the change you want to see in the world. Be the change you want to see in the world. Be the change you want to see in the world. And change will come to you.
Many of us have elevator speeches for different parts of our lives. In your profession, or your former profession, or for your hobby, or the band that you really love, the music that really turns you on. You may have an elevator speech to explain to people who are not immediately familiar what that means to you. It's said that Unitarian Universalists need an elevator speech because we're not immediately recognizable. That is also true of humanists. We need an elevator speech because how we present in the world, we're a little bit countercultural. We're not immediately recognizable. I hope we're countercultural. My Unitarian Universalist elevator speech goes a little bit like this. And those of you who have been in the Welcome to FUS class with me or the Pathway to Membership have heard this. We are covenantal rather than creedal. We think it's more important how we behave together than what we say we believe. We are covenantal. We live in a covenant with each other rather than follow a creed. We think it's more important how we behave together than what we say we believe. The other thing that I say about us is that if you think of a continuum of congregations, religions, from the most conservative to the most progressive, we're as far on this end as you get before you can fall off and you're not really a congregation anymore. But we're still on that congregational continuum. We still are people of belief and shared values and shared ethics. That's part of what it means to be here. We also have our humanist elevator speeches. My elevator speech for humanism goes like this, and I get asked this with some regularity. We believe that it's up to humans to solve human-made problems. And you wouldn't believe how many people in progressive faith communities go, yeah, I believe that too. So I think we have commonality in that. There are folks in our community, in this congregation, who identify mostly as humanist and not as Unitarian Universalists. That's okay. We are the most identity-based of all of the Unitarian Universalist congregations in the Twin Cities for sure, and maybe nationally. We really hold our brand as the birthplace of Congregational Humanism. But we are and have been from the beginning a Unitarian congregation. It was important to us for logistical reasons to be part of a national association. And I keep lifting up how important it is for us to be a part of something that is larger than ourselves. I'm sorry, I have something flashing here in front of me, and I don't know how to turn it off, and it's distracting me a little bit. So underneath it, I see. Thank you. So I think that that's one of the reasons that I'm talking about what it means to be a Unitarian Universalist. We are a member congregation of the Unitarian Universalist Association of Congregations. It's a nationwide organization, and there are some even overseas. And when people look for us, we learned this in our recent survey, some may go in and Google humanist congregation, but not very many. Mostly, they Google Unitarian congregation, and that's how they find us. Most people know the word Unitarian more than Unitarian Universalist. It's said that when we merged in 1961, that the Universalists got the uni, and the Unitarians got the Tarian. Right? So there's a little bit of a brand issue, but I'm not gonna go into that. I think it's important that we care about our Unitarian Universalist connection, and so that's what I want to talk about a little bit today. As Buckley alluded to in our Time for All Ages, the principles of Unitarian Universalism are up for refreshment and renewal. And if there's anything that we are about, it is process. Lord, Lord, we love our process. More process than content, right? How we agree on things, because we practice the democratic process and we practice congregational polity, right? Our Unitarian Universalist Association doesn't say, hey, First Unitarian Society, this is what you have to do. This is what your board has to do. We decide within our congregation what to do, and then the members of the UUA vote together. So I'm going to talk a little bit about process today. If this turns you on, I think you ought to be a delegate to General Assembly. That's coming up in June, and you can even do it online. You could go to Pittsburgh, but you could do it online also. In 2021, at General Assembly, a charge was made to the association to look at Article 2 of our bylaws. That's why it's called Article 2. In the bylaws of the Unitarian Universalist Association, that's where it says, here's how we will be together. We covenant to affirm and promote these 7 principles. And if you wish to follow along, they are in the first few pages of the gray songbook that's in front of you in the pew, right? The 7 principles are right there. These have been on the books since 1985 with some minor adjustments. And a few years ago, we as a congregation voted to affirm an 8th principle, which was a specific anti-racism, anti-oppression statement. Several hundred congregations across our association did that with the knowledge that this idea of looking at all of them would be coming forward. So these principles are maybe as close as we've got to Scripture. Right? We don't do so much with Scripture, but this is language that Unitarian Universalists across the country have come to rely on for 40 years now, right? Our principles and sources, you see the sources below, are not Scripture because we live in a living tradition. Front of that book says singing the living tradition. It moves and changes. We are people who believe in evolution, that things evolve, that we keep looking for the best way to express what is true within us. So, how does this relate to vulnerability? Well, I think there may be some vulnerability in letting go of what many of us have held dear and come to rely on, that out of which we have made meaning, that which many of us go to when we are troubled and say, how do I navigate a problem? How do I deal with that person that is difficult for me? Well, I rely on this statement of inherent worth and dignity with freedom of conscience, etc. The words that we say on Sunday mornings here when we light our chalice. So I think that stasis, keeping things the way it is, may feel like safety, but it never allows for progress. And when we welcome change and allow ourselves to be vulnerable to growth, the unexpected can happen. So this is a real-life application. Some of the things that were asked of the commission that was asked to study this, just find my note here. They were asked to be intentionally inclusive. You can read a lot about how the committee worked, again, the process. The commission was asked to be intentionally inclusive, to take everything and put it on the table, that nothing was precious about the materials, that anything could be moved around or changed, that it didn't have to look like what it did before. And this, the commission shall decenter habitual practices that reinforce white supremacy culture. Decenter practices that habitual practices that reinforce white supremacy culture. And I think what they meant here was perfectionism. Get to work, do some work, and don't think it has to be perfect. Because guess what? Someone's going to come along, hopefully sooner than 40 years, and erase your work and start over. Right? Perfectionism, there's only one right way. We've got to get it right, and we're going to chisel it in stone. Well, it's going to be printed in the front of a book. It had better be right. Let go of that habitual practice of white supremacy culture, of having to have the perfect words. And I think that was an important piece of what they did, because what's true is some people will like what they've come up with and some will not. We can be really sure of that. Back in 1841, Unitarian firebrand minister Theodore Parker wrote a sermon called The Transient and Permanent in Christianity. Back in 1841, most Unitarians thought of themselves as Christian. Our denomination has moved and evolved and changed an awful lot along the way. But what he said in the transient and the permanent really applies today. He said this. I want you to listen for this contrast between transient and permanent, and don't get too hooked in the theology. In actual Christianity, that is, in that portion of Christianity which is preached and believed, there seem to have been, ever since the time of its earthly founder, two elements. The one transient and the other permanent. The one, the transient, is the thought, the folly, the uncertain wisdom, the theological notions, the impiety of man. The other, the eternal truth of God. These two bear perhaps the same relation to each other that the phenomena of outward nature may bear, such as sunshine and cloud, growth, decay, reproduction, bear to the great law of nature, which underlies and supports them all. As in that case, the more attention is commonly paid to particular phenomena than the general law. So in this case, it is generally given to the transient in Christianity rather than the permanent. The reason I bring this up is that our values are not changing, but the way we talk about them are changing. If we leave aside this and we can focus on, in his contrast, how we have evolved in our thought, in our theology, for example, decentering the practices that are habitually associated with white supremacy culture, or the expanding need for equity. We know more about equity than we did in 1985. We know more about bodily autonomy and trans lives and marriage equality and all of the other ways that we might talk about equity than we did in 1985. And our values, the values of dignity and worth, of affirming democracy and so on, are still really present for us. I want to show a slide. A few weeks ago, we talked about word clouds when I was talking about the survey. So we have a word cloud. The commission did hundreds of hours of listening sessions. They listened to thousands of people over the time that they were asking what people thought about the change and what were the key words that stood out to them in their understanding of what it meant to be a Unitarian Universalist. What's the central word? Love. The central word that people understand of what it means to be a Unitarian Universalist is love. And what else do you see up there? Compassion, justice, dignity, respect, freedom, worth, integrity. Are there words that you don't see that you might add on what it means to you to be a humanist, Unitarian Universalist? Covenant. What did I hear? Informed. Inspired. Human. Curious. Oh, I like curious, yeah. Thank you. I love a word cloud. I just think it's so much fun. And you understand that the more people the more times they heard love, the bigger that word got in the word cloud, right? So they heard lots of things, and the more times they heard it, the bigger it was in there. So we could just say, well, what we stand for is love, right? That could be enough. But that's hard to create your covenant just around that. What does it mean? What do we really mean by that? And how do we live it out? So what they came up with, rather than just a set of principles on the page, was a graphic. And we'll show this graphic now. So what you see is the center is love imposed over a chalice, and these 6 petals. They are not numbered. You can start anywhere. It doesn't start 1 through 7, right? 1 through 6. But these words are words that we lift up as key to who we are. Interdependence, equity, transformation, pluralism, generosity, and justice. And I'm going to read what they've written about this, and then I'll close, and I'll invite more conversation about this, and give you a link where you can find more. I should have put that in the Friday email, and it got away from me. Here's what they wrote. These are what sound like the new principles. Now, they're not something that, it's not the language that we had before that was just a couple of sentences on each one. It's been expanded a bit. We honor the interdependent web of all existence. We covenant to cherish earth and all beings by creating and nurturing relationships of care and respect. With humility and reverence, We acknowledge our place in the great web of life, and we work to repair harm and damaged relationships. For pluralism, we celebrate that we are all sacred beings, diverse in culture, experience, and theology. We covenant to learn from one another in our free and responsible search for truth and meaning. We embrace our differences and commonalities with love, curiosity, and respect. Justice. We work to be diverse, multicultural, beloved communities where all thrive. We covenant to dismantle racism and all forms of systemic oppression. We support the use of inclusive, democratic processes to make decisions. Transformation. We adapt to the changing world. We covenant to collectively transform and grow, spiritually and ethically. Openness to change is fundamental to our Unitarian and Universalist heritages, never complete and never perfect. Generosity. We cultivate a spirit of gratitude and hope. We covenant to freely and compassionately share our faith, presence, and resources. Our generosity connects us to one another in relationships of interdependence and mutuality. Equity. We declare that every person has the right to flourish with inherent dignity and worthiness. We covenant to use our time, wisdom, attention, and money to build and sustain fully accessible and inclusive communities. Here's what happens next. At General Assembly this summer in Pittsburgh, the gathering will vote on this proposal. It needs a 50% plus one vote. And then, for the next year, congregations will discuss it. Boy, we like to discuss it. Congregations will discuss it. I don't think that they're welcoming changes to it. I think this is the proposal. I'm pretty sure that that's true, but somebody could check me on that. And then at General Assembly in 2024, which may be completely online, they're looking at going to every other year in person. They will need 2/3 vote of the gathering to change our bylaws to include this. There's a lot more information, and I don't want to bore you with the rest of it, but I find this how we speak about who we are, how we tell people in the world, and by the way, we need to tell people in the world who we are. So that, because we here have found something that has changed our lives. I've found something here that has changed my life. And I want other people to be able to find this. And people come here and they say, I didn't even know you existed. So somebody told me, and I want to tell other people, and I want to have a good way of telling it. And I want to say, here, if you want to read more, read this, because these words were created by my people. These are the words that are created by our people. We are of this. So let us welcome the vulnerability of change. Let us let it sink in. And I would love to hear in future what your thoughts are about it as you study it more. May it be so. So we will sing again. Our song is I've Got Peace Like a River. And we're going to sing all of it. And it is number, I don't have it in front of me, 100 in your gray songbook. So please stand as you are able, and we'll just sing it right through.
I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river in my soul. I've got peace like a river. I've got
am Sandy Martin, and I am on the Board of Trustees here at FUS. And before I get to what's known as the Ask, I've got a bit of history about my experience in growing up in an Episcopalian congregation in Moorhead, Minnesota. The church that my family belonged to was this beautiful small church with a steeple. It was designed by the architect Cass Gilbert, you may be familiar with. And it had beautiful stained glass windows. Some of them were Tiffany. And when I went, I thought, why don't more people come here to sit in this beautiful space? I mean, each Sunday at most, by the time I was in junior high and high school, a good Sunday was like 25 people. Christmas time, if we got 50, we were so excited. We're doing better than that here, better as in we have more people coming, and I'm glad to see this. And this is another beautiful space. St. John's, that's the church I grew up in. With such a small congregation, I have no doubt that they were subsidized by the diocese. We're not subsidized here, are we?
No.
No. No. I'm on the board. I haven't seen that line item. We're not subsidized. We are independently funded and democratically governed. And I like it that way. It does mean we rely on our friends and our members to give to us to keep the place healthy and operating. I don't want this congregation, the building won't go away, but the congregation, I don't want it to go away. I read an article from The Guardian about a month or two ago about many churches, congregations are going away. I don't think we're at that, we're not at risk for that, but I do want to see this congregation, this community, I want to see it flourish. I want to see it be vibrant in order to promote change. And by this, we're putting humanist values into action. And I give personally because I want to keep this going, and I hope you do too. We need your help to keep First Unitarian Society healthy. The easiest way to give is to go to our website, firstunitarian.org, and click the Give link at the upper right-hand corner. You can also give on PayPal, the Banco mobile app, or by sending a good old-fashioned check. For those who are in the building and would like to contribute, stop by the office after assembly today. And First Unitarian Society also exists because of the generosity of its members and friends in time, in talent, and treasure. I'm also the membership team lead, and I could use a few more folks on the team. So I'm doing a double ask today. Yay. Membership team, we're the ones who are downstairs after assembly welcoming people. We're the ones who help out with the new member Sunday, which was a couple weeks ago. And so glad to see new members. And we're also looking for people who may have new ideas. Maybe you're a relatively new member or friend, and you could share your experience. Why did you decide to keep coming back? What can we do more of to foster participation, membership, belonging? So if you're interested, please contact me. You can email me. It's celebrate_wine@yahoo.com. I know Yahoo is so old-fashioned, but it works. So contact me if you're interested in that. And thank you for making the work of First Unitarian Society possible.
We are turning the page to the announcements chapter of the service. I'm here to introduce two videos. First is from your nominating committee. We're looking for candidates for the Board of Trustees, the Foundation Board, and today's video on the nominating committee. And the second video from the annual auction coming up Saturday, April 22nd, just a month from now, and we hope to be seeing you. Hi, I'm Bruce Nelson with the nominating committee, and we're looking for members who are interested in serving on that committee. Today we have Anita Martinez to tell us a bit about the nominating committee. So Anita, what does the nominating committee do?
Thanks, Bruce. It's very easy. We essentially do three things. One is recruiting, one is vetting, and the other is recommending. And what we're recommending is for people who want to have leadership roles on the Board of Trustees, the Foundation Board, and our own nominating committee.
And what's been the time commitment for that?
Oh, simple. An hour and a half a month, that's it. And then special projects like this.
Great. Well, what have you enjoyed about the nominating committee?
Well, I really have enjoyed getting to know the other members of the nominating committee. And the best part for me as an extrovert is to be able to walk around and talk to people on Sundays and get to know them. And hopefully I'll encourage them to sign up for a leadership role. So that's that.
Well, thank you, Anita. Okay, FUS members, if you're interested, visit us at our table downstairs during the mini meal today. Or go to the FUS website, click on Community, then the Leadership Interest Form. We hope to hear from you. Our annual auction is coming up Saturday, April 22nd. Start out with happy hour, beverages, hors d'oeuvres, and live music. The first order of business is getting donations. Go to the FUS website auction page and fill out your donation online. Then send photos to auction@firstunitarian.org. We'll do the rest. What can you donate? We love experiences which will get us together. How about a dinner for 6 or a weekend at the cabin? Teach a class, donate your handicrafts. Everyone loves homemade food, cakes, candy, jellies, and jams. Or donate your time and special skills in someone's house or garden. Or any electronic item, new or in good shape, it will certainly sell. Open the online page or see Barb Lutz downstairs after assembly today and get those donations rolling.
Okay, announcements. We'll do this quick. Mini meal downstairs for those of you who made the journey here. Delightful to see. We hope you folks at home have an excellent lunch, but here we are going to have mujadora, which is Lebanese spiced lentils and rice, or ballpark scrambled, or and can't be beat, B-E-E-T, chocolate cake. All right, that sounds really yummy. When you're downstairs, you got to stop by the Active Voices table for the postcard-orama. 12, count them, 12 postcards to sign today with messages on common sense gun safety, the national popular vote, banning forever chemicals in children's products, and support for childcare. Folks at home, please check out the Friday email or the FUS website. You can all do this. Search for Active Voices on the website. Our calls and emails are making a difference. Big shout out to our Active Voices team for all you're doing. Whoop, whoop. At noon today, two things of import to note. The Rise Above, an evangelical minister finds salvation in humanity. Drew Bakias continues his series in the Chalice Room, which is downstairs. Hear Drew's story of deconversion, moving from evangelical minister to atheist and humanist, and, you know, all around good guy. So you can join Drew at noon for that. If you're new to FUS or ready to learn more about our pathway to membership, that happens at noon in my office, which is just down the hall across from the elevator, or online, and we'll talk about that. This afternoon at 4 o'clock at Temple Israel, Rev. David and other downtown clergy will discuss their interfaith civil rights journey. You've heard him talk about it here, and now you'll hear other of the clergy talk about it. They're commemorating the convergence of Ramadan, Passover, Easter, and Equinox on 3 consecutive Sundays. So that should be really interesting. And one last thing. This has been in the Friday email, but I want to really point it up. April 1st through 3rd, the UU at UN Spring Intergenerational Seminar will be held outside of New York City for the first time at First Unitarian Society. Yes, it's a big deal that we get to host it here. So we could use a few people who would like to be greeters and extra hands to give volunteer welcome, and you can sign up to participate in the seminar itself. Please shoot me an email or speak to me downstairs, and I'll mark your name on that. Okay, thank you so much, and play us out, will you? Oh no, we have to extinguish our chalice.
Right.
We can't leave the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. All these we carry in our hearts and in our minds until we are together again. Thank you. noontime programs will start at 12:15. Go out into the world, be fearless, ask questions, hold on to what is good, strengthen the weak, comfort the fearful, serve the suffering. Do what makes you come alive. Rejoice in the power of the human spirit. So may it be.